So this is the first MATX build I've done on the channel. I haven't done a lot of these, and I honestly could count the number of MATX builds I've ever done in years on one hand, and I do think it serves a smaller audience. So why make a video now? Well, first, this video is really to give an overview of the B860G that ASUS sent me, and also to answer a couple other questions that some have asked me before, like why have I always opted for a full ATX or committed down to an ITX, but never in the middle? Well, the short answer is availability, space, and reselling. There's always going to be more options available for ATX format, and also I just never really liked the past MATX boards in general, or was never in the position where I needed one or wanted one. At the same time, I always found it easier to resell an ATX board when I'm upgrading my system or swapping out hardware. And I've also offloaded a lot of older generation hardware, and I've also done a lot of client builds, and just from that data alone, I was able to tell what was more popular. And when it comes to rocking an ITX system, yeah, there's also the discussion of like preserving desk space and going as small as possible, but also it's the mentality of when I'm going to downsize from an ATX system, I might as well commit and go all the way. But when ASUS announced the B860G, I thought it was just a cool looking board and saw an opportunity to cover something I've never had on the channel. The reason was really just that simple. Now, this video aims to tackle a bit of everything I have in this build. One is to check out some of the new features that ASUS is standardizing for their latest boards like this. Two is also to run a custom loop inside a case that I don't see many people do it in, and a case that I've never played with. This is the Pop Mini Air, and Fractal did send me the white one and I bought the black one myself. But the thing with me is that I also have the tendency to lean towards uncommon builds or ideas, and I'll try to do it to see if I can make it interesting. Just like the Evolve X2, that case was not designed or intended for custom loops, but as an enthusiast, I made it happen and I just had fun with it. The Pop Mini here is one of those cases on my list, and it's got some restrictions. I felt like it would be somewhat challenging, and yeah, so I went and did it. So let's dive into the B860G. Right off the face, it looks like a squished down version of the ATX B860A, both which are Intel. You can see the ROG Strix ID is basically identical, especially in the top half of the boards. VRM heatsink and the cover have got the same angles and whatnot, 4 DDR5 DIMM slots, the same 3 fan and pump header placements on the top right, 24 pin and USB headers for your front panel. The 2 CPU power headers for both boards are also located on the top left. As some of you know, some motherboards may have them on the top right. You also have a total of 3 addressable LED headers, 2 on the right and 1 on the bottom, 4 SATA ports on the right side. There's also 1 internal USB 2.0 header at the bottom for some devices like coolers, LCD screens, and control hubs might use. Front panel I/O header is at the bottom right like most boards, and the HD audio header on the bottom left. So there are 2 particular mechanisms that ASUS has implemented in their latest boards. One is the quick release for your main M.2 heatsink, which I really like compared to the traditional screws. Underneath, they have a single press Q latch that locks your M.2 drive down when you install, and same thing when you release. And the additional slots underneath opens up for 3 additional M.2 drives to install. The other feature is the Q release for your PCIe slot for your GPU. Gone are the days when you had to finagle your fingers in between that tight space reaching for your PCIe slot latch just to pull out your card. Now all you have to do is tug your GPU out from the left side and it automatically releases the whole card. Seeing how ASUS is staying innovative on things like this is great. Another note is that according to ASUS's spec sheet, the G board is tested to clock DDR5 memory up to over 9,000 megatransfers, which is slightly higher than the A board at 8,600. Honestly, I don't think that matters too much because majority of the people who are going to buy either of these 2 boards are going to be your regular consumers and not extreme overclockers. And if I'm not mistaken, majority of the DDR5 kits out there that people are going for are sitting between 6,000 to 7,000 megatransfers, so you're still going to get some headroom. In the back, DisplayPort and HDMI for your iGPU, 4 USB-A 2.0 in black, 3 USB-A 5 gigs in blue, 1 USB-A 10 gigs in red, 1 USB-C 20 gigs, and 1 Thunderbolt 4 USB-C. There's a 2.5G Ethernet port, a CMOS clear and BIOS flash button, Wi-Fi 7 ready, 3.5 audio jacks in and out, as well as your optical. Okay, so that does it for the motherboard. I think that covers most if not all of what people normally use. Now moving on to the Pop Mini that Fractal sent over. This variant is actually the Pop Mini Air, as they do have several SKUs for this line. I chose the one with the mesh front for better airflow, hence the name. Cooling wise, it can hold two 120s on the top, two on the front, one in the rear, or it can do a single 140 on the top and a single 140 on the front. Now in my build, I opted for 120 fans because I wanted to mount dual 240 rads to maximize heatsink surface area, since this case already has limited room for what you can mount for an MATX format. The Pop Mini does have a little storage tray for miscellaneous items, which I don't use, so I remove that, as well as the hard drive trays at the bottom. Anything pre-installed I don't use, I always remove to reduce weight and free up space. I did two builds here, a white one with a Noctua air cooler and a black one that's custom looped. Originally, I wanted to do the white one with an AIO cooler, but I discovered that even though you can mount a 240 rad up top, the tubing on the cooler is too long, which forces an awkward bend and will also get in the way of your GPU placement. Additionally, the Pop Mini cannot fit large cards like this 4080 Strix, which I wanted to use because it would align with the Asus Strix branded motherboard. Unfortunately, I did have to resort to the only other small size white GPU I had, which was an MSI 5080 Ventus. I typically don't like mixing the motherboard and GPU from competing brands for marketing purposes and also to keep the brands happy, but this is all I got. This white example unit is really just to show basic fitments and hardware for what I think the majority of users would do if you just wanted to throw something together and get it up running quickly. The Noctua D15 is one of the biggest air coolers on the market, so if it can fit this, chances are it'll probably fit almost any other air cooler. The black system is using the B760 Tough board with a Strix 4080. The water cooling hardware is all BitsPower. Both 240 rads are 40mm thick and are cooling the 14900K and 4080 in a single loop. The reason why I went with BitsPower is because they typically make pretty short GPU water blocks like their Nebula series, and they have a very awesome looking compact pump rest called the CR801. This thing is an 80mm unit which I mounted at the rear and fits perfectly in this compact build. Overall, I am pretty happy with my first MATX custom loop here. Now, originally, I wanted to do this whole thing in the white build, but I opted for the extreme build in the black unit because I just didn't have enough white water cooling hardware from BitsPower specifically that would fit in that system well. For example, BitsPower's white radiators are only 27mm. I wanted thicker ones and they only make them in black. And as for the fittings on the black system, I went with Corsair's fittings because they are made by BitsPower except without the gold logos, so it's cleaner and doesn't throw off the green theme. Anyways, this video had some diverse information. It wasn't really focused on one particular product. Hopefully there was some takeaway from all this. I thought it was a fun project that I wanted to share. And yeah, so moving on to the next project, and I will see you guys there.